Welcome in.
It is day 128.
And you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be speaking about one of my earliest games I picked up. It's a game I have not gotten to the table in years, and I really regret that. It's the one I want to play, but it does require minimum 3 hours, so it's a hard one to get out there. That game is A Game of Thrones, the board game. So, in A Game of Thrones, the concept is, if you've watched the show or read the books, you definitely get a similar feel at times. The idea being that you've got your map of Westeros, and you can pick the house you want to start as. Now, depending on the number of players that you're playing as, you're going to lose some of the southern houses that are not options to play as. You're playing as the obvious. You can play as the Starks. You can play as the Lannisters. You know, you can come in as the Greyjoys. There's a few different options here. It's a 6-player game, but depending on your total number of players, you have to cut off some areas and they're not able to be used. In the game, you're able to recruit when it comes to, you can make ships, you can make your knights, you can make your troops, but you've also got to keep track of food. You've got to make sure that you're trying to build up to try to be, do you want to be the head for basically the sword, the Iron Throne, and the Raven. The Raven is going to help you out with making your moves. So this game is, everybody makes the choice at the same time. You place your stuff out, but it's face down, and then you reveal it. So everybody's not sure what you're doing. Are you trying to pull people together and combine armies? Are you trying to attack? Are you trying to retreat? Are you trying to add extra fighting? Are you trying to put on more defense? It's a lot of unknowns, which is great. It makes the warfare a little bit more realistic than a lot of games, in my opinion. On top of that, you've got your deck of cards for your house. And this allows it so that when you're in your battle, you can play cards that are going to affect it. You might look like you're going to lose, but all of a sudden you play a Jaime Lannister card that gives you a giant, like, +5, and your opponent, who was out-arming you with all of their armies, didn't expect that, and suddenly you've crushed them. And things like that can happen. Now, what's fun is, this game does not simply do a setup of, my army beat your army and your army dies. What it does is, you're going to have multiple battles where options allow for retreat, and occasionally a troop can die. But there's basically like swords for killing, but then there's also shields for protecting. So you might find that you're canceling out, and then eventually, like, you backing out of a battle, and it's a really good back and forth. The thing that really kills your troops is being unable to feed them. And that's fun, because that's where an opponent can try to force you into retreat. And if they know what they're doing, they can force your retreat into the same spot. And suddenly you say, oh no, I didn't expect this, and I can't feed that many troops all in one place. And that's where people start to starve and die. It's a really, really smart play style. It's one I haven't seen replicated a lot. And beyond just that, there's the Wall with the wildlings, and they're trying to attack Westeros as a whole. So you're fighting each other, but during these fights, at times you have to try to figure out, like, what are we going to do? There's going to be a fight coming up from above. We need to invest. We need to put stuff towards it to be able to defend. And it's all hidden reveals. So somebody may decide, I'm not going to invest anything. And if we fail, we fail. And if we fail, that's bad. It's going to hit the kingdom. You know, you're all going to suffer as a result of that. There's a way for everybody to lose the game together if you lose to the wildlings. It's really cool in the way they designed this game. But why don't we jump into our 7 categories and see, where does this game truly fall for us? Is this a game that holds up? I appreciate the art of this game. I don't think that the front cover is bad, but I don't think it's great. But I think that the board and the pieces and the cards, everything about your setup is amazingly good art. Even though the box itself doesn't sell this to me, the setup does. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up in spite of I shouldn't say in spite of, disregarding a box that just doesn't necessarily grab me huge. I mean, this isn't a bad box. I actually love the cover. It's just, it's not a box that's going to grab my eye, and I don't expect it to grab a lot of other people's eyes in a store in comparison to other boxes that they have these days. I think at the time that I got this, the box was a little bit higher level because there was so fewer options out there, and I was looking for a war game, and this was just the one that grabbed me. The components are really good. So your board, obviously, regular setup board. Your cards are great. Your Raven, your Iron Throne, your sword are all big cardboard pieces. You've got your crowns and your little cities and stuff that go out on the board, all cardboard, very good. But your war pieces, your boats, your knights, your soldiers, these aren't even a wood. These are like, I don't know, it's almost like a marble is how it feels. It's really good. I love them. It's something that, I mean, I don't know what they did to the price of this game. I don't know if this entire box has been risen a bunch because of those pieces. But for me, it's one of the nicest feeling, like, non-miniatures piece I've ever seen in a game. And it's so basic. I really liked it, so it's a thumbs up there. The price. So this game, this was the second edition of the game, and I don't know if they've ever in a third or not, but it's not a hard game to find. You actually will see this occasionally in a Barnes & Noble or a Target, and it's still in 2 or 3 out of every board game store, of every 5 board game stores. It's available online, but this game goes for like 60. You might even find it online at 70 at times. And while I really like this game, it's a long game, and it's hard to convince people to sit down at a table that long to play. So it's one where you're going, am I going to spend $60 to get a game that I might only play, if I'm lucky, once a year? It's not worth it for me. I used to play this game a bunch, but like I said, I regret it, but I haven't gotten this to the table. I mean, it's been probably 7 or 8 years. So it's got to be a thumbs down on that price. Difficulty. This game is, like I said, a really great warfare game. And the reason being is that a lot of times in a warfare game, it's just move and roll, or if you've got these more updated ones today that are a lot better, you know, it's using your cards and moving and fighting. But this one is all about, you get the options, you can hide what you're going to make your option to do and then reveal, so you can always do multiple things. You're not simply fighting and killing. It's a hard thing to kill in battle. It's more about retreating and starving. It's about trying to find a way to balance out, like, what am I going to go for? What am I bidding for? What am I in contention for? Do I want first turn to use that Iron Throne? Do I want to become the Raven so that I can see ahead, and after everybody reveals their stuff, I can go back and change something? You know, do I want the sword so that I'm better in battle and I can drop that in a battle and get bonus points? You know, do you want to help and make sure you don't lose to those wildlings? Or are you going to stay out of those battles? Are you going to let people know you're staying out and then see if that affects if they put money in? It's such an interesting balance, and I think that the difficulty is there, that experts will love this game and experienced will love this game, and beginners and young kids will hate this game. So when you have it like that, it's about that 50-50 range, but the difficulty for me is, for what this game is, it's great. It's a thumbs up. Replayability. Let's go back to price for a second. Remember when I mentioned I only played this like once a year is the expectation, and I haven't played it in 8 years? This game's not replayable. You're not going to play this back to back in the same day. You're not going to pick this in the same year more than, if you're lucky, maybe twice. Unless you specialize in war games, or you and your friends specialize and when you get together you always do a long day type game, or this is just the game you play. It's just not one that's going to get to your table that often. You have to really be a specific kind of gamer for this to be a replayable game. It's a thumbs up. your keys to victory. So at the end of the day, this game is going through multiple rounds, and it's all about where do you rank at the end of those rounds. And you can make the choice. Somebody may not be around because you can eliminate in this game. If I go up and I wipe you out, well, you're out. You can't just get reborn somewhere and start over. And that's a really nice setup for, there is possibilities of screwing up and suffering as a result of it. That being said, I've never seen somebody actually get wiped out during gameplay. It's very tough because you can't kill in battle. You would have to have a combination of you did everything wrong and your opponent got lucky repetitively with whenever they put out a sword, there was never a shield. And if you could do all of that, and then on top of that, the starvation were to kick in, yeah, maybe. But unless you do it perfectly with all the stars aligning, somebody's not going to get kicked out early. That being said, that ability to shift around the board, do you want to be more on the water? Do you want to be more on the board? Are you trying to conquer the unknown places? Or are you trying to go right after your opponent? Are you more interested in battle? Are you more interested in building up food stock? Are you more interested in defending against the wildlings? You know, are you trying to find kingdoms? Because there's so many pieces to it. There is a lot of keys to victory. It's a thumbs up. Is this game unique? Now, there are a couple ways to look at that. It's a war game, and it's a multiplayer war game. So when I got this, I compared this to Risk, because it was also a 6-player game that had its world map that everybody started and would fight over the different territories. However, if you're asking me which one to play, Risk isn't even in the consideration these days, because Risk is just a role game. That's it. That's what it does. Whereas this game is a card, you know, you're not building more cards into your hand, but it is a card game in regards to you have a sort of card setup that is allowing you to control your house. It's got the setup for governing your location, for trying to conquer other lands, or being allowed to just fortify your own lands, to try to build food stock, to try to, you know, there's a lot that goes on there that I don't see that in other games. I don't know that I've really ever seen another game that mimics this. Now, I admittedly am not a war gamer. I've played Risk. I've played Risk Legacy. Back in the day, I had a Kuza. I used to play that one. It's one of the few games that I've let go through the years. I'm trying to think of, like, I have a lot of skirmish games, which is like one-on-one, like Battle Lore, but that's really not even comparable to this. I do have now Cthulhu Wars. I haven't gotten that myself to a big full count play yet, but even that, it's just different than this. I do think this game gets the unique title because it's just not a game that I'm thinking about that truly compares to the play style. Maybe the concept of I want to play a multiplayer war game, but not the play style within that war game. So I'm going to give the thumbs up. Overall, what do I think of this game? I really like this game. It's one that, I mean, the box has gotten beaten up, which for me is not an easy thing to do. It's one of my very first games I owned, and as a result, it's taking the most beating of predating when I had the great storage, predating when I had my old storage, which I still own. The IKEA case is at my parents' packed up, and at someday when I have a bigger room, I'll bring that back for more game storage. It predated that when I was in my old apartment and I had just everything stacked in a really nice walk-in closet. It predates that to when I was at my house with my parents and I was still just throwing everything on top of tables, or I stacked everything inside of my car. It's a game that's taken a beating through the years, so unfortunately this box has suffered. And if I could replace the box, I would. And if they put out a third, a third edition of this game, would I consider to get it? I might, because I really like the game. But if I didn't know I could play it, that's the problem. That being said, it's one that I do think you should give it a try if you have an opportunity to, if you're into war games. But I don't think it's a must-buy. I think it's too much money. I think it's too rare you're going to get to the table. And I think it's a game that, well, I appreciate it. And I think if you like the show or the books, you'll definitely have more of a notion to want to try it. It's not going to change your life, and it's not likely to be something that most of you are going to love. So I think it's just a game that if you have the opportunity, go for it. And I wouldn't jump at buying, but I would definitely jump at playing. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you guys want to get out there and play this. Maybe you're a giant fan of the show or the books, and you're like, this is a must play for me. Or maybe you've never seen or read any of that, and you're still just like, man, I want to play a different style war game. Or maybe you just want to try something different. Any of those fit for this. So do what makes sense for you, for your game group, for your friends, for your family.
Well, it has been day 128.
And we've been speaking about A Game of Thrones. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description. I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.